Pop, with time off, is there concern with too much rest or the rust that might come up?
I can't believe you asked that question. All night you stayed up to think of that question that's been asked 74 times of every coach for the history of the NBA. Sure, there's concern. What are you going to do? You do your best.
Bob, how's this trip to the finals different than the first one for you?
I don't even think about that. I don't know. I don't care. All I care about is this trip to the finals.
You said the other day that the remark on TV about the importance of becoming a better defensive team this year.
Right.
And is that like collectively, or is it individual guys that need to get better? Or
Our team, well, both. Individual and Team D needed to get better than it was last year. And that was our goal at training camp. And we accomplished it. We're not the best, but we're a whole lot better than we were last year in that regard.
Well, in your evaluation of that, when you came to that conclusion, did it have to do with the way the season ended last year, or was it just?
No, it's the whole season. No, the whole season. We were a middle of the road defensive team for the season last year.
What does it mean for you to get back this time?
It means that we played well enough, and we're fortunate enough to get to the NBA Finals. As simple as that, and we'll try to take advantage of it, just like Indiana or Miami will.
Tony Parker says you keep challenging him. What are some of the challenges you gave him before the season started?
I just wanted to be consistent and be an all-star every night, to be a leader every night, and to want to get back to this stage more than he's even wanted to in the past.
You feel like he's back to that level he was at before he sprained his ankle in March?
Yes, I do. He had a period where he had to get back into his groove after the ankle sprain, and he's done that, and he's in shape and playing very well.
Matt Bonner, I think, showed up here with the three-point skill, but what did he have to do over the years, improvements-wise, where you would trust him in big spots?
Learn to put it on the floor a little bit, and not just, if he doesn't have the shot, be stuck. So he passes the ball better. He moves off the dribble better, and I think he understands, where his teammates are a little bit better than he has in the past. He's added a one dribble jump shot to his game, a little bit of a running hook kind of thing. He works really hard on the board, and he's become an important player for us.
Talk about what you've seen out of Kawhi this year in his emergence.
Well, last year was just like a blip on the screen, really, with the lockout and all that sort of thing. But this year, he's developed a three-point shot with the help of Chip England and Chad Forcier. He's, welcomed and done a great job in the role as a defender and rebounder. Some games he's our best rebounder at the three position. He gets a lot of deflections and steals for us. So that part of his game is developed. And now it's just a matter of learning more about the league and the players, and where he fits in around Timmy and Tony and Manu. And that takes a little bit of time to figure out.
Is the importance of development, I guess as much with the last guys on the roster as the top guys, has that always been, since you've been the coach here, has that always been important?
Sure. I mean, the development of the role players is huge, because oftentimes it's one of those guys that gets you through a basketball game, and it makes it a lot easier on starters or your main players if they can have teammates that step up, relatively often. It builds the confidence in the whole group. So developing those role players has always helped us a great deal.
Roster-wise, since '07, it's pretty much been complete turnover except for those core guys. How difficult was that to rebuild on the fly without really falling out of contention?
Well, you know, those three guys have a lot of character, and they make it easy for whoever we bring in to adjust and understand their role on the team. They help me do my job, and actually it's more important what they do than what I do, as far as them making those players feel comfortable, not intimidating them, and giving them the time and the space to form their own games around them. So, you know, they're responsible for allowing that to happen over the years.
Did you ever think at the beginning of your coaching career you'd have an opportunity to have a core like that under your tutelage?
At the beginning of my coaching career, I didn't know if I'd ever win 10 games before I ever got into the NBA.
You mentioned some of the challenges that you gave Tony at the start of the season with Tim. Did you tell Tim anything coming into this season? Or do you
I haven't talked to Tim in about 6 or 7 years. If I did, he wouldn't listen to me anyway.
What does that say about a guy like Tim
It says that he's mean and rude.
and yet you still put up with him? But
Why do I do that? I can't figure it out. Yeah.
just a guy that's made the money he has, achieved what he has, that he still has the competitive drive to lose. You know, he put the number at about 30 pounds, you know, to still have that kind of competitive drive at this point.
Well, you know, the greatest players have that drive. You know, you look at, you know, you can name them, you know, and there are about 8 or 10 of them, and, you know, in this modern era, you know, starting with Magic and, you know, that era, and Bird and all those guys, and you add Michael and whoever, there's about 8 or 10 of those guys that have unbelievable character and professionalism, where they last a little bit longer, and they do it at a high level because it's just how they're built. They have that kind of competitiveness and heart, and feel the responsibility of their teammates, and Timmy's certainly one of those.
I know you guys.
That's contagious, Pop, for the other guys that you mentioned rebuilding on the fly like you have. These guys come in, they see those three guys working as hard as they do.
Well, sure, but, you know, we try to make sure that the guys we bring in the first place don't have to be convinced of anything. You know, we don't make guys want to be team players. You know, they're already grown. So, you know, if you bring in a selfish player, he's probably not going to change. So, you know, bringing in the right people in the first place is the most important key.
Credit isn't a big emphasis for you guys, but does it bother you that Tim maybe doesn't get enough credit for being the competitor and having that kind of fierceness that he has?
No, because anybody who doesn't credit him that way is probably an idiot.
How can you elaborate a little bit on what Coach Bud's meant to you and the staff and getting the opportunity in Atlanta?
Mike Budenholzer's been with me in a variety of capacities for a long time, starting out in the film room. A lot of people don't know this, at Golden State as an unpaid helper before I ever brought him to San Antonio. So he's been with me a long time, and, you know, fast forward, you know, at this point he's basically, you know, the co-head coach here. He's sharp and innovative, hardworking. You know, he's a special young coach, and I wish him all the best.
When you make your assessments of, you know, what you have, like for the next season, does the ability to win a championship ever factor into those, or compete for a championship ever factor into those assessments?
It always does. You know, that's what everybody's trying to get every year. You want to be in a position to have an opportunity to win an NBA championship. So, of course, that enters into the preseason calculations.
Because what was it then that, you know, 2 or 3 years ago that you saw, kind of keeping Manu and Tony together, that you'd be able to surround them with enough to get to this point?
Well, one never knows, you know, who you're going to be able to add. You know, you hope that you can find the people that you want, but, you know, it begins with what core do you want, and then it's just a matter of moving forward. We're not in the NBA Finals every year, so, you know, it doesn't always work out, but you want to be in a position where you give yourself an opportunity, and that starts with having a core, and we've been fortunate enough to have that.
Are you going to have time to watch Game 5 of the Eastern Finals tonight?
I think I'm going to move my schedule around and see if my TV works and try to watch it. I think so. No, I don't. But I'm glad it's him. You know, he's a very, very popular man on our team, and gives us a lot of spirit. And he's probably mad at me because I don't play him more. But he's for the team all the way. That's why we love him.
Is it important at all to kind of give, just I guess for players to be not motivated is not the right word, but just to, when you send them off into the summer, to give them something, for them to have something to work on about whether it's their body or whether it's something about their game, to especially guys that get older, to maybe be more invigorated, just kind of a mental challenge in a sense.
Well, you know, I don't think that's unique to the Spurs. I mean, every team sends their players off in the summer with goals, whether they're physical goals, mental goals, skill goals, you know, that kind of thing. When exit interviews happen on every team, players have some marching orders on, you know, what they need to do to maintain and improve in a variety of areas. So I think that's common for all teams.
In regards to Patty, should I start forwarding you the emails I get from Australia on why he doesn't play more? Do I have permission to do that?
Sure, I'm sure some of them are very humorous.
They're all very polite.
Yeah. Who's that idiot that doesn't put him on the court? You know, and I raise my hand. Anyone else? Okay, thanks. Have a good day.